Right there. My name is Silvia, and I'm happy to be here with you. Second one. And the first one, Carolyn was with us. Lots of good questions, very engaging. So this is a workshop, not a lecture. Feel free to ask me questions, okay? So you're going to learn about yourself today, okay? How we relate to one another, your words, gestures, even silence, right? So that can either bring healing or it can deepen our wounds. At the heart of our connections, though, is attachment, the concept of attachment, shaping the way we communicate, right? How we express ourselves, whether you realize it or not. How am I communicating? What are you reading?
Casual introvert.
Casual introvert. That's a first. Thank you. Where's the chocolate? Okay. Nicely done. What else? You pick. Yeah. What else? Say it again.
You love me.
I seem loving.
No, you said what are you reading?
What are you reading?
Yeah, you love me. Great books.
If you love me. Okay. I'm happy you're reading the book, but what are you reading in my body language?
Oh.
You still get chocolate. Hi guys, welcome.
I don't know why you said it.
Yeah, why'd you say it? Because my hands are in my pocket. What do you do for a living?
I'm a cardiologist.
I could read that.
Sorry.
No, that's fine.
You're wearing all black. You have a oversized jacket on, and it's, and just your body language is kind of, you seem approachable, but you don't want to be approached, kind of vibe.
Wow, okay. I mean, that's what he read. He might be a little tired, yes. I wear black to hide the weight that I gained, thank you very much. And it looks more professional, right? But I'm just showing you, so the other group said, you seem confident, you seem very casual, it seemed like you're at ease. But really, I'm a little nervous. No matter how many times I do this, I still feel like everyone else here has heard everything that I'm saying before, they're smarter, it's just the way it is for me, right? Because I'm a therapist, I'm used to 1 to 2 people in the room. And I do this a lot, but I still end up doing this because I get fidgety. And I use my hands and I try to keep it calm for you guys, because if I'm anxious and you're watching me, what's gonna happen to you guys?
Don't get anxious.
You're gonna get anxious, right? And what are you gonna check it out. All right. So, the way we present ourselves through our body language is really important. So as Orthodox Christians, we know that true transformation and healing goes way beyond what we read, right? We believe that our understanding of humanity is so it's foundational to how we communicate, how we dress, how we show up day to day in our very non-likely jobs too. So what does it mean to be truly human in the light of Christ? We're gonna look at it. How does our faith inform the way we relate to one another? This workshop, we have some objectives. We're going to explore the relationship between body language and attachment style. You're going to evaluate your own attachment styles. That's the quiz you're going to take when I let you know when to take Mr. Anxious Attacher. And then we're going to explore the path for growth for each style, because it's not stagnant. You can grow. And maybe I'll give you homework. Okay? Do we have more? We ran out. Okay. All right. Well, I'll give them the link. Okay? So I'm going to invite you to explore these questions through the lens of clinical knowledge and Orthodox Christian spirituality. And I want you to become aware, right? So Do psychotherapists, doctors, medical professionals, clergy analyze body language? Yeah, what's your first name?
John.
Dr. John analyzed me, right? Probably analyzes his patients. You can tell, right? When they're tense, when they don't want to listen, when they're probably not a very good patient, right? Do we analyze body language? All day long. When COVID hit, I had to go against it, because I felt like I'm gonna miss so much. I can't read what I respond to because I'm getting sick, okay? And now nobody wants to come to the office. Quite frankly, I'm like, sure, I'll do virtual, and then I'll cook in the middle. So, this is important because body language also vital clues to helping the client or patient in myriad of conversations about their lives, about their experiences, who and what they are, right? So we can read or see what they really might not be able to say. So as a psychotherapist, I'm going to need a volunteer. I've seen my fair share of body language cues. I mean, I write a book about it. Okay? Actually, I didn't share this with the other group, but one young lady came to me. She was 14. For 6 weeks. 6 weeks. 6 weeks. It's a long time. Exactly this. Sure. She gave her back. And I just had to meet her where she was. And I told her, when you're ready to turn around, you know, sweet. She was sexually abused. She was emotionally abused. She was physically abused. She was moved from her home. She trusted no one, especially the people with platform, right? They failed her. So how I built that safety with her, with always going around, my time, this, that, I waited. But I waited. She eventually turned her chair around. Okay? So volunteer. You're gonna read I'm gonna read you my body language cues. You get chocolate. Come on up. In the hot seat. It's not hard, trust me. Dr. John. You read my black clothing, now you get to sit. Come on up. Thank you, Dr. John. So I'm gonna give you a particularly memorable session I had involving a very successful cardiologist. Yeah. Convinced his manner is the master of disguising his emotions. Sat across from me. Arms hold very tightly, very posture. Poker face. Poker face, right? Okay. Despite his best efforts to appear stoic, his feet were tapping very nervously. Okay? Like nonstop. For a sign of anxiety. Right? I gently pointed to him. Right? Only to the real kicker came when he started to shift in his seat, like really uncomfortable. Because he's like, you're burrowing into my soul. Please stop. And he glanced at the door, like contemplating escape. Right? I couldn't help but laugh at because the sheer irony of someone trying so hard to conceal his feelings, but screaming them like this bright neon sign. You can't hide them. So finally he felt comfortable enough when I pointed and told me what was right. Thank you, John. Body language suggests various aspects of attachment style, particularly in the context of therapy where emotions are laid bare. Who would like to read The Anxious Attacher, first attachment style? Someone on this side, please read. Nice and loud. Oh, thank you.
The challenge for this individual is to learn how to give others the space they ask for, even when the request is communicated through others' behavior rather than with their words. The learning curve for the anxious attacker is to see others' actions as a form of communication. In an ideal world, people's words and actions would match, but that is not always the case. For the anxious attacher, it's important to learn how to self-soothe and manage their fears that surface when distance exists in their relationships. As they do this, they are free to give others the space they need rather than bridging the gap to resolve their fears.
So the anxious attachment, that nervous tapping of his feet, fingers, right? Along with frequent glances at the door, suggests underlying anxiety. Okay? They're anxious. They're not happy to be there. Anxious attachment involves a fear of abandonment, okay? And a heightened sensitivity to perceived threats. So I am saying, you know that you texted your whoever you're talking to, is that what they say nowadays, right? Talking to someone, you texted her, and then you see those three bubbles in the dot, three dots in the bubble. So like, staring at those on those dots that you really look at it, fix that. You're just sitting staring at something anxious, you want to but you're worried. Like you upset with me, whatever it is. So that's anxious attachment. Fear of abandonment, fear of rejection, okay? And that's just one example. We're gonna go through a lot. So either based on this, or based on your experience, can someone tell me what you know about an anxious attacher, their nature? What's their predisposition? Maybe what their childhood was like? People pleaser? That's a very good one, actually. What else? Anxious attacher. What happened in their childhood? They were abandoned. Yeah. Their needs weren't met. Yep. Okay. What else? People pleasing is a good one because you're waiting to please mom, right? Is she gonna approve of this, right? Say it again. Seeking validation, absolutely, right? So the fear of abandonment or rejection, okay? So it brings me to this study that was done on rats, right? There were 3 rats. One was fed consistently. That rat knew that they were gonna eat. One was starved, did not eat, and one was fed intermittently. Who had the highest level of cortisol? They measured it. The not fed one? Nope, the not fed one. Intermittent. You never know when their next meal is coming. They're anxious. Might not be to eat what's going on. I've been forgotten. I'm worried. Right? Highest level of cortisol.
So those people need to control, right? Yeah. They need to control.
Yep. I'm gonna get to the next slide and then I'm gonna give you a good example, but please remind me. So the anxious attacher and the avoidant attacher, it sometimes gets a little complicated. Former anxious attacher here, married to an avoidant attacher, right? So how do I show up when he doesn't feel like talking to me? What do I do? Yeah. I want to fix it. I want to talk about it. I don't want to go to bed upset. Like it is. On and on, like diarrhea. He's like, oh, I need to self-protect. So Dr. John is laughing because it's familiar, right? We all know this, right? I need to self-protect. You're attacking me. This is too much. I'm overwhelmed. Shuts down. I protect myself by going after. He protects himself by conceding. The only way to grow is to talk about it. How do you need me to show up? What do you need from me right now, Sylvia? What can I do? Kareem will say, I need some space right now. And I will talk about this again before dinner. Yes, be reliable. He's gotta do it so I can start pressing. All the times that I checking out He needs to be more mindful about it, right? And I'm like, I have the answer. Let's talk about this. He's like, don't. And I'm gonna give you a measured, good answer. I need time. So that's the anxious attacher. Avoidant attacher. Someone read that for me, please, nice and loud. I know there's chocolate going around. Wants to read. Go ahead. Yeah, nice and loud.
This individual feels most comfortable with space because it either buffers them from fears of intimacy or being taken advantage of in some way. Their path of growth includes connecting with themselves, more specifically with their feelings and needs. As they acknowledge that they think, feel, and need, that they can learn to vocalize these to their friends and partners rather than distance themselves and self.
Right? Like I gave you a good example, right? So initial attempts that appear stoic, not talk about that poker face, right? They want this is tendencies towards avoidant attachment. Its style is characterized by the reluctance to rely on others. I don't want to depend on you, right? A preference for emotional independence. That's their preference. That's how they're comfortable. This client's efforts to conceal vulnerability, they're not comfortable being vulnerable. And discomfort aligns with this attachment style, avoidance. Here's the third one. Who wants to read it? Take one down and pass it around. Thank you.
Wait for this to be complicated, typically complicated relationship, to distance to normalize their emotional experience. So organized attachment experience a lot of distance and confusion internally, because they often feel the type of moving two separate directions at the same time. If they can acknowledge and normalize their fears of connection, as well as their fears of intimacy, they can feel more friendly, and they can cycle with that more directly.
So this person is so confused, that poor person. The shifting in their seat uncomfortably and avoidance of eye contact will also indicate elements of dismissive avoidant attachment, okay? Which is also known as disorganized. We have elements of both. Minimizing the importance of a relationship and suppressing the emotions to maintain a sense of autonomy. So overall, your body language, my body language, hints at a complexity in our attachment styles. You're gonna learn about your styles soon. Possibly involving a combination of both. Some people in the previous workshop scored equally on me. I'm so confused, but that's the way you answer the question, right? So the good thing is that there's a path towards it. The fourth is secure attachment. So I've been thinking a lot about the words distance and space and how it relates to our relationship. Depending on whether you're anxiously attached or avoidantly attached, these might be very different to you, distance and space. So the way we relate, so a few years ago, I read a book called Attached by Amir Levine, very good book, by the way. And I never forgot this really simple but profound illustration he used to communicate the natural and necessary rhythms that we need in our relationship. So he talks about a mother and a daughter at a playground, okay? Child's running around with her friends. She is swinging off the monkey bars, going down the slides, just having a blast, right? And mom's seated at the bench, watching her maybe on her phone, whatever the case may be. Child suddenly stops, runs over to her mom and gives her a flower. And the mom is talking to her a little bit and she says, oh my gosh, I gotta go finish playing, okay? And she runs back to the playground for more adventure. I was really struck by how perfectly this scene illustrates the balance of closeness and distance. See how healthy that is, right? It's necessary for all secure relationships. If we slow down around these interactions, we see a few vital elements, like between mom and daughter, right? Closeness and distance, security and joy,
intimacy and autonomy, right? She feels free to step away from her mom and play with her friends because she feels very confident she's going to return to a secure, happy, warm, loving mom. Mom's there, right? Mom's not going to check out and leave. She knows. She trusts mom. So the way the mother relates to her child instills this security, which also we carry into our adult relationships. How we grew up shows up in our intimate relationships later. Circle back to the words distance and space. We can see how the mother and daughter experience these as positive benefits. But what about the anxious attacher? How do you think they experience distance and space? Do they experience it like this? Space and distance is a threat, right? It's a threat to that anxious, it's a trigger. So the anxious attacher is triggered by physical and emotional distance. It activates their fear, okay? So when they sense a partner or a friend is emotionally distancing themselves, they have a difficult time tolerating it. Strong fear of abandonment. Avoidant attacher is very comfortable with distance and space, right? One of their main strategies is to emotionally distance themselves to self-protect, like the example that I gave. But the disorganized attacher has a very complicated relationship with physical and emotional distance. Internally, they fear a disconnection that distance can stir up, but they also want to withdraw because they fear being emotionally engulfed in some way. So they're super overwhelmed, but longing for that connection. And they don't know how to balance the two. Secure attacher has a very grounded relationship to physical and or emotional distance. So in other words, they're not immune, secure attachers are not immune to the fear that distance can produce, but they're mentally and physically prepared for it. They respect boundaries. They get it. It took me a minute to respect. He's not checking out. He's checking. I'm respecting. Okay? So he doesn't activate those triggers and fears of abandonment because I have learned how to be secure. So rather, you don't want to try to change it. You just have to respect it and understand it. So, I should put this. Okay. You all have attachment style clips.
I know, I will give you guys the link, I'm so sorry. I would like for you to take this test, I would like for you to answer it honestly, not how you think you should answer it, or not like this particular girl in your head or guy in your head. Just answer, how do you show up in the day-to-day life? Okay?
I'm gonna send you the link, Sarah. Yes. If anyone wants to take it now, I could text them the links. I don't know how to toggle it. Or can I Google something? Okay, take your time. You know, I'm gonna email it to myself. Yep. Let me actually stop sharing. Hot seat. Read it, right? Yeah. And write down on a paper. Yeah. You guys,
Right, before, in fact. You don't have to test, you want it. Alright, so just grab a piece of paper and, write down the numbers, but I'm gonna text it to you.
up on the screen.
Oh, it's up, you can do that, you wanna do that instead? Alright, you have a pen and paper, you're gonna write, or you can type on your phone, or that, yeah. Just tell me what you guys are about this screen.
Yeah.
Come over and check it out.
Yeah. These guys,
You either want to go near them and read it, and then to your phone. You guys want to take a picture of it? Can we-
yeah, it's online. Down or up? There's another page. You know your way to answer, right? Are you looking at
Right, gentlemen, are you guys gonna let that work? Sorry. I'm like, thinking there was. Alright, I should all have.
Guys, almost done? Okay.
Imana,
May have.
I think he looks very familiar, that's why I felt like he's about it, I think that's what I like.
Alright, so I hear some chatter. I feel like we might almost be done. No, not yet? Oh.
Add it up, yeah.
Add it up, yep. Total. Sorry, yep, add it up. Yeah. I mean, 70.
Yeah.
All right, guys, what do you think? No, there's no failing.
Yeah, that's the only way you fail.
Alright, so remember my avoidant husband had no idea he was even avoidant. So level-headed and logical. I don't want to talk about it. It has to make sense, right? So he grew up saying and thinking, and it was hardwired into him not to have expectations.
Don't have expectations. Do it all yourself. He's a giver. He will do anything for you, go the extra mile, but he doesn't ask anybody for it. Well, 2 reasons. He doesn't want to burden anyone, and well, 3 reasons. He probably could do it better himself, and he doesn't have expectations. Because he feels expectations lead to disappointment. But he's a business finance guy. What does that mean? I keep walking in the Zoom, I'm sorry. Well, how's that gonna show up for him? His avoidant style that wants to do everything. Successful. So set the avoidant attacher. He is gonna experience burnout. He's not gonna know how to delegate. Right? Any successful leader has to trust their team and build up their team with confidence and giving them these jobs and knowing that they'll do it well. If we micromanage or do it all ourselves, we get burnt out. Same in relationships. How can I experience an avoidant attacker? I must just not try to do everything themselves. Gotcha. What does that look like for me?
Right? The way we have to learn how to reconcile these very different attachment styles that are rooted in our is by communicating, by talking about it, what most avoidants don't want to do. So what I teach my couples, because couples keep me very busy these days, the avoidant attacher needs to ask the anxious attacher, how do you need me to show up? What do you need? How can I show up for you? Right? So this anxious attacher can feel seen and feel understood, that my needs might be met. The anxious attacher needs to ask the avoidant attacher, what?
Tell me when you're ready.
Will say, I need a little space. I want to talk to you about it, but maybe before, right?
We get into trouble when we try to change each other's style. When we don't like, that doesn't work for me. What is the most biggest
Obstacle in any relationship. And this is
my opinion is
communication. All the time.
yes, definitely communication. But that's a symptom of unmet expectations. When we don't communicate what we need, we live with these unmet expectations and they breed resentment, right? What do the most successful couples have in common? Universally, Muslim, Coptic, white, black, does not matter. Most successful couples, what do they have in common? What do you think? I want to hear what you think. What do you say? Good communication? Very good answer. Over here? They know how to fight. They fight fair. Anyone else? Say it again?
I think the expectations are understood between us.
Your expectations understood?
Value.
I mean, that's super the most successful couples put one another's needs ahead of their own. Yes, that's in any relationship, work, intimate, whatever. You need to respect those. But the most successful couples have one thing in common. They put one another's needs ahead of their own. I have to put my husband's avoidant style, his needs, ahead of my anxious style. Right? And that comes with communication, boundaries, love, all the other things that you said. Right? Okay. What'd you guys learn with this quiz? Ask away.
I have a question about the scoring.
Yeah.
I think
I can't help you with adding.
everyone's gonna be careful to avoid it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
That's not true. That's not true. That's not true.
And then the other one, everybody tries to avoid
You just want company in your field pro. I was thrown into it by my father. My science brilliant father, right? Brilliant. I wanted to be How was my attachment style? Anxious. And what did my mom do? Had a very secure, maybe overly I had the balance. I'm still anxious when it comes like not being able to see the shore anymore when we're at the beach. And you're like this because of that experience growing up. And that was stuff. You could do it. Throw yourself in the fun. You'll find your feet. Right? That doesn't mean that I still don't have those fears. Okay? So you can have, to answer your question, very much stuff. You can also grow from them. Oh, how do we get back to slide? Sorry. Okay. Questions so far? All right. So, yes, go ahead.
Why do they always attract?
Why do they always?
Say, right, when they're, whatever doesn't like that, she doesn't like it. So why is it attract?
What do you guys think?
The whole opposites attract theory, that I believe is true. I don't like, it's not generalizations and blankets, but why I was attracted to my, probably didn't. I don't know what it was, right, like, but not anxious. Appears to be confident, secure. What did he bring out in me? Okay, yeah. He has what I don't have. Right?
Which is.
His strength is my weakness. And why is he attracted to me? His best friend, by the way, is like me. Funny, loud, like doors open, come and eat, always full table. He likes people like us. We have what he doesn't have. It's a continuation. And it could be very beautiful and complimentary, usually is at the beginning, and becomes super annoying later. Yeah, right? Try to change each other. You have to accept that person for who they are. Respect is the secure attacher respects the need for distance and space. Because that looks like something different for everyone. Closeness, right? Intimacy. Not the same for him as it is for me. He's not a public guy, he's a private guy. And I'm super public. I mean, what I do for a living, right? And for some reason, I always use my very private husband as an example. He wants to kill me after that. But we learn from each other. I learned so much from him.
Doesn't necessarily cancel each other out if you respect and marry the two. Okay? His strengths are my weaknesses. We all grew up in a human household, okay? And when I say human, I mean humanity, broken, also have their attachment styles, their fears, their wounds, right? And that trickles into how we cope, how we face the world, how we look at the world, how we view love, okay? So we have these imperfectly secure attachment styles, but we can't do it without Christ. And the problem is our experience is God. My science dad and my really devout Orthodox at the interviews, they will in God. For my father, it had to make sense, right? Science, that's how he went. For my mother, it was blind faith. Polio will fix everything. And it does. Have to believe. But we can't have orthodoxy
With orthopraxy. This is where we fall short. Are we cutting out that?
because we as Christian Orthodox know that the salvation, the goal, the end, it's the kingdom, right? But how do we get there? So orthodoxy,
We believe, we have faith, we know, we are faith. Do we find that in orthopraxy? Is it confession? Sacraments, all the sacraments, communion, but it's also community.
you guys are all here, you have something in common. Besides being sick. I was here last year, right? But that's because you're attracted that we have, we're all brought up the same way, there's familiarity that we need to taste and that we want to feel secure in. And I think this is a beautiful thing put together. And I would push my kids when they're old enough to come, right? There's absolutely nothing wrong. This is what community is about. Questions so far? So there, by the way, there's a path of growth. If you scored really high on fearful, disorganized, if you scored really high on what we can grow. That's the good news, okay? Who wants to read it? As the roads for the anxious attention. You get very quiet over there. You knew I was gonna look at you. Okay.
The challenge for this individual is to learn how to give others space. They ask for healing when the request is communicated through others' behavior rather than through their words. The learning curve for the anxious attacher is to see others' actions as a form of communication. For the anxious attacher, it's important to learn how to self-soothe and manage the fears that surface when distance exists in their relationships. As they do this, they are free to give others the space they need rather than bridging the gap to resolve their fears.
So the challenge for this individual is to learn how to self-soothe, right? I don't want to just lecture you on it, give you tools. Now, how can the anxious attacher fill out? Go to the gym? Why? I love that. Why? It release endorphins, right? Which is good for you. This is all God's design, right? How many medical up in like the whole room or Coptic? Okay, right. We've heard of ENSO, endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin. Okay, those are good hormones.
Our bodies to keep us balanced, to keep us towards the path of security. Tell me about endorphins. Endorphins, go for a run, right? You'll get endorphins. I don't run, so I don't know. But, you know, that runner's high apparently releases endorphins and you feel really good. And then when you go home and you're no longer running, you realize your shins really hurt, your hips really hurt. Why? Because what did the endorphins do? What did endorphins do? They push you. They mask physical pain, right? God put them in our bodies to push us to do good things. But when they're gone, you're like, right? But it keeps you going to get that runner's high. Dopamine. Dopamine. Food. Yeah.
Video games, reward, right? I have a
And love checking it off. I get hit it over me every single time. Great. So, you know,
yes.
let's do it. You're ahead of me. Dopamine, highly addictive. You could trick the system if you don't balance it correctly. Serotonin. Serotonin. Serotonin is, so I graduated from Fordham. I picked Fordham even though it wasn't my top school.
Because my brother graduated.
And he might have told me.
What do you think my mom? She was like levitating, right?
You're, you know, that's why we have the Oscars. That's why we have graduation ceremonies. Because of that, right? To feel good about our accomplishments, right? Reward. Cool.
Mother baby bonds. When we have babies, our bodies filled with oxygen. That is the reason we have. Right? Also another baby. You guys heard of AA?
Alcoholics Anonymous. Very hard program to get through, by the way. Like, impossible. The 12-step program. What's the first step? I didn't tell the others.
What's the first step? We all joke about it. Make you happy. If you do all 11 steps, but miss that one step, you will drink again. And those 11 steps take a long time, and they're very hard and very long. What's the 12th step? Service. Service always. That's who we are. We put one another's needs ahead of our, when it comes to our standards. Okay. That's secure attachment. The avoidant attachment, how do they grow? Who wants to read? Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
Attachment. This individual feels most comfortable in space because they believe it buffers them from fears of intimacy or being taken advantage of in some way. Their path of growth includes connecting with themselves and more specifically with their feelings and needs. As they acknowledge what they think, feel, and need, they can learn to vocalize to their friends and partners rather than distancing themselves.
So this individual feels most comfortable with space, where I don't like space because I'm anxious, right? I'm just saying this as an example. Like I'm a reformed anxious attachment. Okay? They believe that it buffers them from like hurt. Okay? How do you think that child grew up? That avoidant attached adult.
Feeling the way shared feelings, highest discouraged or
Missed. Okay. So I have 3 kids. Alexander's 17, Gabriella's 15, Christian is 12. They have such different personalities. Okay. And they all joke and say, Christian is my favorite, but that's because he tells me I'm pretty, that I look good, smell good, that, you know, he's just delicious. But Alex is avoidant, like I said, super duper smart. So I teach him to just talk about it. When he comes into our room, this one circles.
Just circles. And I know he's ready to talk. If he sits and go. You don't have to wait for him to be able to do that. He has to always feel safe enough with me. We went on a cruise, Disney cruise. Hey, remember I told you he's super smart. You go cruise. Top 10 things. He got top 10 worst things.
One of them was rape. I'm like about to take them to like church
comes in, not up the screen.
So I answered it, but in enough for him to understand it.
They got home, like, you say stop and stop, something like that, it's like, that's it, stop, even though he's laughing.
He said, stop. Teaching them boundaries, right? So I said, it's usually when that person doesn't stop. They didn't respect the no, and they didn't respect the boundaries. I thought that was good enough. He left, and then he came back and said, with clothes on or off? I said, both. I didn't fail.
I answered him, I gave him the right question, there's a right answer, there's no such thing as I changed. Because he knew the answer. And it's not gonna be, there with my values. Okay? Because security, you have to come and circle the bedroom and plop on the chair and talk, and it's always like after midnight. Right?
My daughter. Oh, and by the way, Alex, poster, smart, and like smart as so sharp, very high EQ too. But he does it when he feels like it. Typical boy, fast cars, sneakers, whatever. And the work is the last minute. It's always good. He doesn't have to work as hard. My daughter, lovely, good girl, super kind-hearted, not your typical 15-year-old. She works her butt off. It doesn't come natural. She's easy. Sometimes it's easy to miss her. She's not causing anything. She's not making any noise. She's not causing problems. What do you need? She's that typical middle child, right? And then my youngest, I don't know what he's gonna do. Chelsea, and he is majorly, you know, and he's a trump. But my point is, it's easy for my daughter to feel dismissed. She does everything right. So she could grow up to be avoidant, and I started to notice that, right? Where she doesn't want to talk about what's bothering her. She doesn't want to bother anybody. And only because I'm noticing these things, I'm gonna help them get over these blind spots. Be aware how you stand. With the kids that you serve in your church, with the patients that you treat, with the people that you're dating, with your parent, whatever, day to day, how do you show up? Notice your style, notice what triggers. And that's why I gave you guys that test. The disorganized attacher, over here. The way for this individual to uncomplicate their typically complicated relationship is to distance, normalize their emotional experience. They dismiss it. They experience a lot of dissonance and a confusion internally because they often feel the tugs in two separate directions. Right? Longing for that connection. So if they can acknowledge and normalize their fears of disconnection, as well as their fears of intimacy, they can be more grounded, decipher what's best for them. So there's a path for everything. The good news is, no matter what you struggle with distance and space, I want you guys to remember those two words, we can grow. But the mind is an amazing thing. We all know neuroplasticity, right? So the figure our thinking. It takes practice. If you're wired to be negative, that's gonna, so look at it as a triangle, right? If you're wired to be negative, they're gonna affect your beliefs. You're gonna have negative beliefs. Your beliefs are negative, they are going to affect your behavior, right? All connected. Thoughts become your beliefs become your behavior becomes your action. If you guys signed up to come to this
Workshop, and if I was like slumped over and talking really low, and nervous and not engaging you, not walking around, did you have faith in that I knew what I was doing? And you check out and get on your phone, most likely, or you can just walk out, right? How do I show up? I want you to walk away with something. How do you show up with your husbands, with your wives, with your girlfriends, with the kids that you serve, with the relationships you're exploring? This is why.
Yes, get to know ourselves. Grow our blind spots. So we can 100% work on it. We have time. So I wanted to give you guys homework. Did you ever do the Enneagram?
You guys need, you're asking me to put it on.
Oh, sorry. The Enneagram
It's really cool, it's free. And it's basically 9 personality profiles.
You don't have that much time to go through it, but I want you to do it at home. Okay? So it's very related to
Attachment styles. Carolyn is high enough to put it up here, so you guys can see it, but the Enneagram, so what, if I read you all 9, you try to guess what I have. That's a good one. Yeah, that, okay, so the first one is the reformer. They're driven by a need for perfection. The second one is the helper. They're motivated by a need to be loved and needed. The third one is the achiever. It seeks validation through success and accomplishment. Okay? Individualist longs for uniqueness and authenticity. Right? A lot of kids that come to me with, I don't do little kids, most probably adolescents, but the ones with gender issues and gender confusion often fall into that individualist personality profile, right? The loyalist, and the enthusiast seeks happiness and avoids pain. Challenger, driven by a need for control and autonomy, very avoidant personality. And the peacemaker strives for harmony and avoids conflict. You see how there's some overlapping? I encourage you guys to take this. It's actually a long test. And it takes time, so do it when you have some time and no distraction. Answer honestly, though. Because the only way you can show up securely in your relationships is when you do the inner work. How can you do the inner work? Give me an example.
how you do the work. How do you sharpen your skills?
Changing AI, my storm.
I think you have to keep it.
Questions, shadowing someone who's experienced in a mentor. Connect with your father's confession, with a servant that you look up to, with someone you respect. You cannot do this alone. Orthodoxy, orthoprax. See how I'm throwing everything in different ways into these 2 buckets? Yes, I practice cardiology. I know the heart, I know the ins and outs, but I have faith in my education, but the way I practice is by constantly sharpening my skills, by reading, by writing, whatever it is that fills that bucket for you. Therapy, it's a good thing. Yes. Oh,
Someone keeps asking what orthopraxy means. So
the
can you
practice
define-
of orthodoxy. Thank you for asking, and thank you for outing her. No chocolate for you. Give her some. Okay, another question. Yes. This is a good book. I haven't read it, by the way. Sorry to interrupt you. I told you about Attached by Amir Levine. This one's Attached to God. I think he's an Orthodox author, but I need to finish it yet. Go ahead.
Do you feel that in today's world, we are very, we do a lot of psychological analysis.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to this.
TikTok.
This is, a lot of psychological analysis and, attachment theory and focused on, who am I, introvert, extrovert, this and that. And then you kind of look at, I'm talking maybe of like romantic relationships.
Yeah.
On that
Yeah,
side of it, where, we're trying to figure ourselves out so we can get with the right person, right? And then you look at, for instance, my parents' generation. Now, I feel that
they didn't do a lot of that introspection.
Absolutely not.
And-
Food, clothing, shelter.
That was it.
Yep.
And for whatever reason now, I feel like it worked really, really well. And my question to you is, what changed?
Ignorance is bliss. But that's not who we are, right? You guys know Maslow's hierarchy of needs: food, clothing, shelter, ego, self-actualization. They never got past shelter. Are you kidding? I was shared with the other group, I was medicine, and when I changed to psychology, my father was like, oh my God, you failed, I failed, here, we're done. What is psychology? It's fluff. What is that? No one needs that. They need a doctor, right? So they didn't get past that. They survived in a third world country where they were persecuted for being Orthodox. We can't blame them, but we know better. And for us to stop that generational stuff, which is avoidant attachment, anxious attachment, and show up in a secure way for our kids and our spouses, we do the work. And it's not for TikTok, guys. There's some really good people I know. All my clients come to me, they're like, I already diagnosed and I know that I have blah, 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 blah. I'm like, really? Where'd you hear that? And then I'm like, give me alcohol, right? You gotta do the work. It doesn't come easy. Trust me, the answer is not in TikTok. And when I say do the work, there's more than just your mental health. There's all the dimensions have to work together. We don't get off the hook as Orthodox Christians. If your spiritual life is lacking, your mental health is gonna lack and your physical health is gonna lack. They are connected, period. If I am sick in my mental health, that shows up physically. I will be filled with cortisol. And what does that do to my heart? And what does that do to my blood pressure? But we, as Orthodox Christians, have a higher call. We have to nourish our spiritual lives, our inner lives. I'll give you an example. When the kids were little, we don't do this anymore because good luck rallying teenagers, but we prayed every night together as a family. I grew up very Orthodox, right? Very conservative. My husband did not, right? We called him, what was that? Christmas, Easter. Yeah. Thank God, though, fatherhood and being a spouse gave him a calling to learn more. But I can throw out a prayer like a prayers were simple. So I would get annoyed and look, like, that's it, that's all you got. And now, like, here's what we say, our Father, I was judging his inner life. He let me in, and I'm judged instead of encouraged. So my avoidantly attached husband, we've been married for 23 years. This is a very long time. He shut down. It's like, no, you can run. That was part of my anxious. I wanted to be perfect. I was one of things, right? I can't change him. I have to change me. So what I tell my couples, and I shared this with the other group. The anxiously attached spouse. They're not going off the handle, they're not getting emotionally dysregulated. As a matter of fact, they appear heroic, cool, calm, and collected. Nothing with your kind of anxious attached, you're more crazy than that. I'm not on her side, I'm not on his side, I'm on the side of your marriage. And I have to get both of them to buy into that, to trust me. That's the way to do it. So if you go to couples counseling, they don't do it that way, then you call me. Questions? Do you bring religion to your therapy? Not always. So I have to respect people, but I'll tell you how I bring religion into my practice. Most people come to see me because they want the Christian aspect. My practice is called Christian Center for Counseling, so it's pretty obvious. everybody's there yet, right? My favorite quote.
We do not loudly discredit people, by disrespecting, yelling, but instead by showing.
How do you show up? I don't have to say I'm Christian, let's pray. Am I acting Christian? Am I dressing Christian? Am I behaving Christian? How do I show up in a very secular world?
Like the guy that reads the Bible, you go out to the club. You know, they read the.
No, I don't go to the clubs. I just tried He outed you again, it's his fault.
There's, I always see this type of.
He's evangelizing in like the
So harsh and like, so.
fire and brimstone.
Like,
Fire,
looking
yeah.
like, looking at a street where people are enjoying themselves drinking.
Is that Christ?
And yeah, the way it's like, it's such a, anyways,
It's a big turnoff, right?
yeah.
And like you want so badly to know the source of it, that light. So that light we all have, we're all icons of Christ. We're called to venerate each other, not by disrespecting or preaching the Bible in a really harsh way, yes.
Kind of goes off after Dr. John's question about like, so you say you do like a lot of like the inner work, like figure out what works for you. You talk about the balance, like maybe overthinking causing issues.
Oh, there's no balance in overthinking. There isn't. Overthinking causes anxiety, and anxiety is just fear, by the way. The fancy word for fear. So overthinking something breeds what? Worry, fear, right? Does overthinking solve anything?
I don't know, because I feel like, especially if you're trying to be like analytical about something, but maybe they're trying to figure out where something went wrong. It could be helpful, but not like, but then it's easy to overdo.
And you have hope, and so, okay. Tim has a very good question, guys, and it's about overthinking, which we are all guilty of doing, okay? If there's a problem that we're trying to analyze where it went wrong and the answer didn't match, it's good to work on it. Critical thinking, not overthinking. Okay, there's a difference. Critical thinking, I feel, is a lost art in this world. Like, kids are not even taught to critically think. Everybody gets a trophy. They don't even have to try it. That's critical thinking. Overthinking is worry, fear, nervousness, shame. So when I have a client who overthinks, I tell them to simply journal 2 things. All these thoughts that they're having that are mostly overthinking, put it in one of 2 buckets. Is it fear or is it fact? This, I'm giving you guys a session here today. Who's gonna get me a Diet Coke tonight? You got it. Okay. Fear versus fact. Is that thought a fear or is it a fact? Every single one of my clients, their fear bucket is like this long. Okay, in fact, it's not. How about maybe if, that's all, not fact. Overthinking is the first step to anxiety. What you asked is critical. There's a problem, I'm gonna solve it. Yes, please.
Analysis paralysis, yep. Okay. So if it's that difficult to discern, do you think that's sorry. Is that person for you? If it's that hard to connect you're trying to reconcile. Well, I know that they have, you know, an issue with money and generosity and frugality and this, but they also have this. If you can't take the good with the bad, and you seem to be over analyzing and really reaching with the good, I think you're reaching, and it's not for you. And it's really easy to ignore the voice of God. He's given us red flags, he's given us signs constantly. We ignore it.
So, going based on what Caroline was saying, sometimes we have to know ourselves, because a lot of people are very indecisive, they don't know what they want. Basically, if somebody's going, you know, I want a pair of jeans, I want to go to the store, pick them out. And then people don't know what they want, they have that fear of making a decision on something where something else can be better down the line. So I feel like, yes, you should trust the voice of God if you figured out what you're looking for exactly.
That's conditional. Can I challenge you? Is God's voice conditional or is it constant?
But see, sometimes it's hard to figure out what's God's voice and what's our voice. For instance, like in the Bible, like from Samson. God was doing the right thing despite God telling him not to do certain thing.
Well, because he wants to show off his strength.
Correct.
Is that God's voice or is that pride?
No, it was pride, but he was. What I'm trying to say is that he didn't know his true source of power, which was God. He took it upon himself to think.
Yes.
So I feel like we have to know ourselves, and I'm not talking like just foundational, like, you know.
Not just orthodoxy.
Correct.
Orthopraxy.
Correct.
So what's your question?
No, I feel like it's not more of a question, it's more about like, it's good to know what the information that you're getting from the opposite person, but also from within you, what information you have within you to make a certain decision.
I also think that like internally, like we have the sense of this feels good, it doesn't feel right, or
Yes.
so that voice that you have to distinguish the voices, like so to speak.
So this is Rita, that's a very good point.
In the last meeting.
We have a sense of intuition that God, I think, gives us as females, as mothers, right?
It
does not steer us.
The only time I get into trouble is when I ignore that feeling or that gut or that intuition.
I am not a crazy academic, even though I do have to constantly study and do my job and learn, but I trust my intuition. And I'm
Sharing with someone else.
sometimes I don't take lunch. I'm not gonna ignore that intuition. I know it's not gonna be a good fit for me, right? Men have to work a little harder at it, okay? Because it's not as clear. And how do you work harder on it? You gotta sharpen your EQ. It's very simple.
Yeah, yes, yes. I like to call it quiet time. Guys.
It is such a noisy world that we live in. But you could change it, and you will have the same intuition and leadership skills as the best. As a matter of fact, everybody in the C-suite to any president usually has except for the past one, usually has very high EQ. You know how to lead. You know how to get your team to trust them.
And EQ can be learned like anything else. You didn't have to practice.
I could do EQ all day. Yes.
Good at in a professional environment, that struggle with it on an individual basis.
Of course.
Personality.
Yes. Closeness to distance. You're a performer. You're task oriented. Your goals resulted, right? But this is too intimate.
You're a leader, or you lead, or
I am a leader and I engage people, but my husband knows where I need to change. I'm unplugged at home. So he could see all of my deficits, right? for a Diet Coke with ice. Right?
It's different for like a professional environment, it's like more goal oriented professional environment, whereas at home it might be a little more like open end. So it can be harder.
Home is, so why does Christian, my 12-year-old, every nun in his school wanted to put him as an ADHD kid, even though he's not. But he had to sit still for 8 hours a day. That he was full of energy and he needed to exert it. He can't sit still. Even in the car, he's tapping and stuff. He's not an anxious kid, he's energetic. There is a difference. So why is he well behaved at school and everybody's like, he's such a treasure, he's such a treasure. And then he comes home, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what's wrong with you? He lets it out. He stays at home, right? So he doesn't necessarily put his best foot forward. He needs to let it out, and he knows he's loved. He's securely attached to it, right? So it is different between work life and family life, but it doesn't have to be. Yes,
So you don't find languages the level of
and they change, by the way. Everything is related. 100%. Acts of service girl. Right? So I'm a peacemaker, leader, and loyalist. But 20 years ago, I was probably like quality time and give me a good gift. Right?
Well, you fall.
Growth. Experience, right? Everything can change. But I encourage you not to try to say, I like this one better. I'm going to work towards that. Love who you are, but just grow your blind spots. That's it. I am not ever going to be like my husband, read a contract. Sorry, I'm giving you this. From beginning to end, he goes through that boy life. He dots his I's, crosses his T's. He doesn't miss a beat. Does it? Where I'm like, just tell me where to sign. Right? Change. And he's not going to change. And he's either super patient with me, which he has been, or say, I got it. Putting one another's needs ahead of their own. Question. Comments? Complaints? It is fun.
It's actually very interesting because the parents attachment, but it didn't start out that way in my view. And because like, you know, like brain, I always want to refer back to the brain scale, the scale of joy. And so when you're faced with challenges, I guess that you working towards like, okay, this is my deficit, and absolutely now I am in the love and I'm comfortable, I don't worry, I'm secure. You know, no questions there about it. That's part of growth.
Part of growth is to work on your blind spots. As a newbie therapist, I've been doing this for a really long time, right? I used to not be able to sit in silence. It made me so anxious. And I'm like, oh my gosh, are they gonna talk about filled in all the silent moments during therapy, which is disaster, with talk. So that person did not even get a chance to open up or process like my avoidant husband. Remember, I thought was checked out. He was really checking in. I did not get comfortable with silence and with space. The other person, I would have hurt that other person, right? That was my deficit, my blind spot that I had to work on. Why the nervous chatter so? But how would I know that if I didn't get to know myself and not try to change, but just try to grow in my own skin the way God created me, right? I was never comfortable doing this, guys. I've been doing this for a long time with really big groups, and God kept pushing me out of my comfort zone. And I couldn't keep ignoring his voice. And by the way, how do we know it's God's voice? I don't want to forget this part. If God's voice ever gave you fear, made you anxious, does it ever make you doubt? That's not God's voice.
It's hard sometimes, a lot of sermons mention that shovel now makes it seamless, God wants to give you peace.
Yeah.
That's not God's grace. And as God works, the devil works.
Here. And we're rich. Us Orthodox Christians, there's so much beef. So the thief, if you have a thief and they're targeting the houses, are they gonna go to the dilapidated, jacked up house? Or are they gonna go to the house with all the German cars and Italian cars in there? The devil goes after the rich. The closer you are to God, the more he's gonna come after you. That's a bigger victory. You have to learn how to turn off the noise and discern God's voice. And also, and use your intuition that God gave you. I saw a hand, I felt like. Yes.
What's the difference between intuition and you developing experience?
What's the difference between intuition and experience?
Your experience feeds
Okay. Your experience feeds your intuition. I like that. Can you tell me more? What's the difference between my intuition and my experience? I'm experienced enough. I used to work for the prosecutor's office and I used to investigate sexual work in children. And I became very experienced and I became very street smart too. Don't let the black outfit fool you. I'm not an introvert, by the way. I'm an extroverted introvert. So you kind of got it. Okay. But my intuition, there was only one time I felt unsafe. And that was my intuition. It wasn't my experience. And intuition is there to keep us alive, to keep us safe. My experience was not putting myself in dangerous situations. Doesn't mean I won't get into it. Does that answer your question? Does that make sense?
Was it turn out to be valid?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I avoided it. I didn't ignore my gut. I said, peace.
Mind cannot process belief, but they just feel it.
Yes,
Something is not quite right, and you need vile,
100%.
yeah. So I feel like intuition is, I think that's what we can process, which I know.
It's like nagging. They call it in the Bible, they call it the inner ear. It's where you hear God's voice. It's very subtle. So that difficult situation I was in, I had a patient who was in jail, the Hudson County Jail too. And he had co-occurring disorders, which is what we call MICA, mentally ill, chemically addicted. I had to go visit him in jail. I was pregnant with my first child. I was not uncomfortable going, but when I walked in, there was this little feeling I had. I shouldn't be here. A fight broke out 2 minutes later, like chairs being thrown, and I left. Don't ignore it.
I was gonna mention that, like, based on people's questions, that restless feeling you get sometimes, like.
That could be anxiety too.
Right, well, I also think it's sometimes God stirring up to move forward.
Yes.
Make a change, so.
Absolutely.
You feel like that person feel like you're comfortable, like, in this job or this relationship, like, that's just fine, but like, there's something so gnawing at you, it's like, making you think about things, it's like a restless feeling. You have to, it's making you, progress in a direction.
Right? That's ambition. That's what a lot of kids don't have these days, which is that gusto, that grit, right? So do we grow in the comfort or do we grow in discomfort? So I grew by God pushing me to serve this way. He's like, no, too bad, I need you to do this. Uncomfortable for me, but I grew, right? And I served in Bergen Church in New Jersey 2 weeks ago. Record turnout for grads. And I took my son with in high school. Why? Because they know that I'm gonna give them tools to go home with, right? And would a 200 person audience make me nervous? Yeah, but guess what? It's helping me grow. And Alex said to me in the car, said, Mom, you're getting better and better. That's a big deal, my avoidant son, right? Yeah. So you grow in the discomfort. You gotta push yourself. That's how we build resilience in kids, right? You gotta push them to do things.
I don't know if that happens
you know, from schools anymore, from families, and spend a lot of time together. So you can, I see a deficit in our younger generation.
Oh, there. You don't know how to interact, like, he's gonna have to do interviews for colleges. And I said, you know, you have to look the person in the eye, and you can't all day. It's because of this, they're all heads down all the time, they don't know how to talk. So if you go to a birthday party for the kids that you serve, or the kids that you have, everybody's on their phone. It's crazy to me. But we can't change it, so we just have to also give them the, don't fight it, but, you know, help them learn. So I think you guys, I took you guys over, you were an awesome group, and glory be to God.